Hello, my name is Guilherme and I help engineers to be high performing project managers. This content here is a warm up content for the project management journey that's going to happen from 21st of March to 24th of March. If you are interested in that, you can click in the link here in the description of the video and subscribe for free. It's a free event where I'm going to discuss how you can start or how you can accelerate your project management journey to be a high performing project manager. What I'm going to talk about here is finance and why you as a project manager should learn finance if you want to be a high performing project manager. Let me start from the focus point. If you look on PMBOK 7 edition, it's stated there and that the ultimate goal of any type of project is to deliver value. And why I'm highlighting that? Because when you look in general, people sometimes they get involved a lot in the process or they get involved a lot with the framework, but they forget about the value. And again, if you look for Scrum, the goal of Scrum, of course, it's a framework, but the goal of the Scrum is to deliver as much value as possible. And it's also there, it's part of the Scrum framework, and it's also stated in the Scrum guide that the value being created there for the project also must be assessed. That you cannot just assume that because you are using Scrum that you are delivering value. It's kind of the same thing that if you are following the waterfall procedures, you are assuming that you are delivering value. No, you always need to focus on value delivery. That's something that you are going to see much more in evidence on the PMBOK 7 edition. If you look for the principles of the PMBOK 7 edition, one of the principles there is value. If you look uh, if you look for on Scrum, they are going to see a lot of things there. Value. If you look for Lean, one of the focus points of Lean is delivering value. You're going to see value everywhere. Why? Because in the end, companies they are not looking for frameworks. They are looking for the value that the project is delivering to them. So be clear on that. If you want to be a high performing project manager, you need to focus on value delivery. If you're using waterfall, if you're using lean, if you're using uh, Scrum, if you're using Kanban, if you're using any type of project management framework, always your focus is delivering value. Again, you can be a project manager, a product owner, a Scrum master, or whatever name that they might come up. The focus is always delivering value. But why I'm talking about that? Well, if you look, what is the main way that companies measure value around the world? It's basically money, right? If you look for the, let's say, the most admired company that they deliver a lot of value, for example, Apple, they deliver a lot of value. Or they deliver a lot of value for their customer, or at least their customers perceive a lot of value in what they do. Amazon, they deliver value to the customer, and how this value for the, like customer servicing it's reflected in the end on money. Like money, if you're looking for the value, it's a consequence of delivering high value. It's like the same thing for you as a professional. As a professional, if you want to have a high salary or want to really get a good payment, what you need to do? You need to deliver a lot of value for your company. Because if you want a company pay you, I don't know, $100,000 per year, That means that you need to deliver to your company at least 200 or $300,000 as value. And I can tell you, if you are a high performing project manager, you can deliver multiple of those numbers. I've done that plenty of times myself. We would joke that after some of those actions, say the company can pay my salary that is paid here for the next 10 years. But again, how this value that you're delivering there will be reflected, you have different ways you can measure it. But one of the main ways that all the companies in the world they are going to measure value is with money. Again, money it's not the only thing, that's not only the final goal that you are looking for money at any cost, because if you are doing that, likely you're not going to deliver value, then that's likely you're going to have problems with money. But for sure, money it's very important because money it's the gasoline that keeps companies going. Like it's like with your car, you cannot go from A to B in your car if there's no gasoline. If a company is not profitable, they're not sustainable in the long run. Why? Because at some point they were going to run out of money, they are going to be bankrupt. Then value their money is quite important for any type of business. And that's a way to measure the consequence that the value that company is delivering. I can tell you that the only reason why you pay what you pay in an iPhone, it's because you see a lot of value there. Otherwise, you would buy the simplest version of the Nokia that that the one that we had, I know, 20 years ago. But you do not see value there. That's why you are not willing to pay $700 in an old Nokia of 20 years ago. But you are willing to pay on an iPhone, I don't know, 14, something like that. Then think about you as a project manager, you're focusing delivering value. What's one of the main ways that the companies are measuring value? Money. And when we talk about money, what I'm talking about finance. I'm talking about cash flows, I'm talking about business case, financial statements. So let's make the connection. If you are there as a project manager to deliver value, you are there to try to manage the value. And the value is being measured with finance. If you want to have a good influence in the value being delivered, you need to understand finance. Otherwise, would be the same kind of thing if I ask you, let's meet, whatever, let's have a meet face to face in, I don't know, in Amsterdam, for example. And you agree with that, but I never tell you the address for that. How can you get there? Basically, you cannot because you don't know. You do not understand. You might have a vague idea because I mentioned Amsterdam. You say, okay, Amsterdam is in the Netherlands, which I hope you know. And then, but you do not know where we should meet. How can you get there? And it's kind of the same thing. If you say that I want to deliver value, I'm measuring value with finance, but you do not understand anything with finance, how can you get to the value? If you do not understand this bridge, this connection. And I can tell you, this is a pitfall that I've seen in a lot of project managers. That's something that I struggled myself in the beginning of my career. I can tell you that after I graduated, I was hired as a planning control engineer. Then I worked in the company for a bit more than 2 years. Then I was promoted to be a project manager. And I started work as a project manager. And we every day, because it was every month, because it was an EPC type of project, engineer procurement and construction for energy infrastructure, basically, we would have to report what was the result of the project in the month, meaning how much we progressed with the project, how was the revenue, how was the cash flow. And of course, for some parts, I had a pretty good knowledge because also since the beginning, I started in this place as an intern, and I find some struggles with finance. Then I bought books, I read it, I did trainings and so on. Then I was learning and I was progressing on there. But there was something that basically we had the performance meetings with the management and directors in the company, and that they were talking about accounts receivable. But I really did not had I had some vague understanding, I can tell you, but a lot of times I can tell you that I was confused, that I did not understand how this accounts receivable was really connect with the project, with what I was reporting every month. And honestly, I was in the company for a while. People told me, and I was studying of that. I studied it. What's a balance sheet? How I can construct a balance sheet? How from a balance sheet I can come up with a cash flow? But honestly, I worked there, and I always had this problem. It was not clear. And of course, later on, I also did an MBA. I learned much more on finance. I studied much more, and I gained a much better understanding on business case and so on. At the point, I can tell you on my next positions that I had, I really understand everything that was in a business case. And this was a competitive advantage for me. In one of the companies I worked on, the other project managers, they really did not have this understanding on business case and finance. And then sometimes we went with discussions with like a commercial director, with a finance director. And then when we were talking about business case about my project, I really had inputs because I knew everything that we had to put in a business case and where the information would come from and what would be the impact there. And those other project managers, they were completely lost. Of course, if you ask them, you know how to do the kind of understood more or less how to do a cost management. It's not more rocket science, right? If you have a budget of 1,000, you know that you need to be below this budget to keep your cost there. But when you talk about business case, when you look for, okay, what's influencing this NPV? What's OPEX? What's the CapEx? How we do that? How can this impact my project? And because they did not know that, basically they were put aside in all those discussions. And because I knew that so well, I built a very good relationship with the European CFO. And at the point he started to trust my work. And every time I need something, he would ask me a couple of questions, and they would say, "Okay, you got this. I trust you," and would move forward. But I saw like the other project managers like just in front of me struggling with that because they would try to explain. Because if you do not understand, it's really hard to understand how the business case is putting there the impacts. And when people start to ask me, okay, but what's your effect in the OPEX? People did not know even. Okay, I do not know what's OPEX. I do not know how this OPEX is calculated, how it's done. Then I've seen them for things that would take me 30 minutes to get approved with the finance director. They were struggling for 1 or 2 months because there was a lot of follow-up questions asking them to check more information, to bring more data, to analyze more. And I could see they were very frustrated because there was more work for them to do. And that was delayed also a lot of in creating a lot of extra discussions. And I can give you another example that really helped me. In one of the companies I was working on, uh, the company was building a mature to being one of the markets, and there was a lot of capabilities that we had to improve in the lab. But for my project, we had big demand of work for the lab, and we were in need to buy some systems and equipments to help us to produce the prototypes, meaning some scans to scan barcodes, to manage the stock from the lab and this kind of stuff. And even the lab manager, he come to me saying, "Yeah, I'm having trouble to get this approved. Can you help me with a business case? Because you have the complete overview for for your programs and so on." I say, okay, okay, I'm preparing these, and I can tell you, I prepared it because once you understand how those things work, that does not take a lot of time if you have the access to the information. I can tell you that in 1 week, I put together a business case, and and I it's finance. The structure works exactly in very similar ways. That it does not change a lot. That's also the beauty there. If you understand finance, you're going to use this in how the companies around the world. in all types of industries. And I create this business case with the lab manager, and we had the meeting. Then I invited for the meeting, of course, the lab manager and two other stakeholders, I believe the CFO in Europe and someone, and say, and of course the lab manager say that's what we need to buy. Here are the quotes. This is the total. And I just took the COA. Okay, this is what we have from the customer. This is how much the customer is planning to do. This is the cost for this. This is the cost for that. Blah blah blah. And I create a very easy business case. And the CFO was like, "Yeah, that makes sense. Let's buy it." We were talking about an investment. It was not like millions. We were talking about, I don't know, 40, 50K, 50,000 euros. And the European uh, CFO, he approved it like, I don't know, in 40 minutes. And then, of course, it had to be presented also for the other directors there, also in the US. And I know that took them, I got feedback, it took them half an hour to approve it and get it running. Why? Because it was quite easy. Say, I'm asking here for 50K. That's the business case around it. That's what we are going to need to do. That's how much we're going to do it. What that's the profit margin that we have here, and that's how much you need to invest. And that's in the end, you have this much profit still. And of course, when you put like that, it gets very straightforward. And it's much easier to people to approve it. Because if they ask you why you need to do it, you should have the consideration here saying this is what we need to do, this is what we have from the customer, this is how much cost for us, and this is what we need to execute this in a proper way. And those kind of things will help you. And not only that, I just mentioned that the lab manager asked me for my help. Well, if you want to be a manager, you need to create your own budget. You need a lot of times you are present in meetings where the financial results from the company are being delivered. You need to take decisions based on the finance. Why? Remember, finance for a company is a way to measure value. And a lot of times when you are taking finance decisions, you are trying to make sure that the company gets the right value in the right direction. So finance, it will help you as a project manager. It will help you to build relationship with very important stakeholders in your company. If you get the confidence of the CFO, of the controller, or whatever name, yeah, you're in a pretty good situation. Because something I can guarantee that you you always need to present a business case, but for most of things that you need to do in a big company, you need to have a budget for that. And those things that I mentioned, those budgets, they always go through the CFO, they always go to controllers. And if they do not understand it, you're going to have a hard time to approve it and sometimes even delay your project. But if they trust you and if you can explain to them very clearly what needs to be done and why, and you present the data, you can do things much faster. So here it's quite important. If you want to be a good project manager, if you want to be a high performing project manager, you need to understand finance. And when I talk about understanding finance, I'm not talking about that you need to be an accountant. You're not going to create a financial statement for your company. That's why there's a finance department, that's why they have accounting. Well, but you need to be able to understand inputs that you get from finance, different inputs that you have from your project, and you need to be able to reflect these in a business case. And again, the business case, it's a way where most companies are trying to measure the value for your project, the value that you are delivering it. Companies that they do not make profit, companies that are not profitable, they are not sustainable in the long run. Then if you want your company doing good stuff, making and a good impact in the world, The company needs to be profitable, and you need to guarantee that as a project manager. And as I mentioned, because I already got this type of question, say, yeah, but there's an accounting, they have controllers. Yeah, but you as a project manager, you need to understand there. Again, to my example here, if we are going to meet in Amsterdam, you are the project manager. You have a lot of things, a lot of people here, or a lot of your team members that you need to make sure that they get there to this meeting, important meeting in Amsterdam. And tracking your business case, your KPIs, it will help you to find this direction, to see the speed that you're progressing there. But if you do not know it, how you're going to know you're going to get there or not? Then you get simply a target that you don't know, then you always struggle because you cannot understand that. And again, if you want to grow in a company, if you, I don't know, if you are the engineering director, I can guarantee to you that you are going to be in a meeting where you first you need to present your budget, you need to discuss even the budget for your team as an engineering director, which type of investment that you need to do in your team. Maybe you need to buy tools, softwares, and so on, training, and all those things you need to present. That usually comes with a budget, and usually you need to discuss that. But you are also not only that, if you're in a meeting with a company, the company usually every month they're going to discuss the results. What's where we are with your revenues, how is your profitability, how profitable are each type of product, how is your roadmap for development, what are your our KPIs here for development, what are your KPIs for operational performance. And if you want to be a manager, a director, a CEO, you need to understand that. You cannot manage a company without knowing finance. And again, if you try to do that, it's the chances are that things will end up bad. Or maybe because the company will say, this guy is not learning, we need to find someone else that's capable of doing the job. Or the company will go bankrupt because no one knows what's there. And the beauty of the thing, so you can rest assured, you are going not going. When I talk about, you don't need to be an accountant. I'm not saying that you need to understand how to create a balance sheet, you understand all the operations, knowing all the financial rules on those things. No, then we have a finance department for that. But you need to know some basics of the stuff, how a business case is calculated, what's a capex, what's opex, what's gross margin, what's operating margin, what's an EBITDA. Those things, because those things will be part of your day. What's a cash flow? What's an NPV? What's an IRR? What's your payback? And you're going to see those things quite often. I bet you that in most type of projects there's a business case there. You might see different types of business case if you have a product or service, depending how the company operates, depending on type of product. But usually there's a business case for projects. Well, not only business case because the company is selling something, but if you have, for example, if the company is investing in a new warehouse, usually there's a business case connected with that. And if you want to expand this warehouse, you need to create a business case to showcase that your expansion of your house, it's a good investment. I just mentioned to you my experience trying that I was helping the lab manager to justify investments like to buy equipment and software that we need to improve the operations in the lab. If you are working in a Lean Six Sigma project, you need the idea of a Lean Six Sigma project. It's also show the financial results there. Because of course, when you talk about Lean Six Sigma, when you talk about Lean in general, they are going to say the goal is to reduce waste, to improve quality. But how do you measure that? It's with finance. So those things, everything is connected there. So understanding finance, having this understanding, general understanding how a company works, how a business works, also make your life easier because sometimes you get KPIs, key performance indicators there, which you're going to understand how they are connected and why they are connected there. If you want, for example, reduce time to market, you're going to understand why they're connected there. If a company says that they want to do an MVP, minimum value proposition for a product, you need to understand why. Because you want to have a proof of concept, because you want to make sure that you limit the amount of money that you're investing in something until you can have a proof of concept before you proceed with further investments. This is a concept that's right there in so many different ways. Like Jim Collins, that's one of the most famous business writers there that you can see. He has a lot of famous book, but there's one that's called Great by Choice. Very good book, by the way. I do recommend it if you read it. One of the things that he says in the book that those companies that he compared in his study that were proven to be great by choice because they would always fire bullets before they would fire a cannon bullet before they fire the cannon. What he means by that, the company would fire a lot of bullets, a lot of MVPs, and once they find something that they really work, then they would focus on that. They would fire a cannon. And you are going to see this exactly the same concept if you when you talk about and fragility. That's a concept. There's a book about that. Of course, the author created this concept, but this concept you can see in very different ways for a lot of different things. Come back from even from the Roman times for ancient Greece. And what's the idea there? That one of the things is having optionality, where you have uh, a lot of kind of small bets that if you lose, you're limiting your losses there. But if you win, you can win big. Well, this is again connected with the MVP concept, but every all those things again, you are in different levels connecting these with finance. And this why you want those small things because in the end you do not want to invest a huge amount of money and be wrong with a product. There are cases, for example, from Motorola with the Iridium case. That's a quite famous one. That Motorola, they created a company, they invest $6 billion to create a telephone by satellite, meaning that they would launch, I don't know, 60 or 70 satellites around the world to keep a good coverage and people would make calls via in the end it was not a cell phone, it was a satellite telephone there. But in the end, the company went bankrupt. Why? Because they invest a huge amount of money, and at some point they got so in love with the project they forget about the value that the final customer would have. If the final customer they do not see the value in what you're doing, that's very nice that you have a lot of satellites out there to have a service, but they are not going to pay for that. If the value is not there, the money is not there. Then basically this company is bankrupt. If you want to look for the case, you can just Google it. You're going to find out of that. Then again, value is always connected with one of the ways to measure very value is finance. So it's very important if you, as a project manager, you need to have this high level understanding. And not only as a project manager, but if you want to understand how your company operates, what are the KPIs, what the company is looking for, you need to have this understanding. I've seen so many people in my career that does not have this understanding. So they have so limited understanding in what the company is doing there. And of course, in the end, that limits what they're doing, that limits their performance, that limits their growth. And I've been telling you, I've I've seen a lot. This is one of the big blind spots for a lot of project managers. That's why if you want to be a high performing project manager, you really need to have a good grasp on finance. What are the financial statements? How it's work? How the business case of the project that you are managing are working. Because when you understand the business case, you also start to understand how this is connected with the value that you are going to deliver. Then you really manage your project, focus in the value that you're going to deliver there, and start to steer your business case into the right direction to make sure that the value that the company is expecting is there. That's what's going to make you a high performing project manager. I hope you like the content. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know if you have questions. Just leave a comment here. Again, this is a content for the warm up that we are going to have for the project management journey that's going to happen from 21 of March to 24 of March. If you're interested in that, please click in the link here and subscribe. It's completely free. If you like this video, please click in the button like. Make sure you share with people that might be interested. Also, make sure you follow my channel on YouTube for more free content. And also make sure you follow my Instagram page because I'm sharing their everyday content that you can. I'm sharing their content of. I'm sharing their content every day about project manager and also trying to help you to be a high performing project manager. I hope to see you soon again. Thank you very much. Bye.